Hi everyone, this is Natalie with Champion of Coins Tarot. I hope that you all are doing very well today. I wanted to come on to film a video response to Cody from Tarot Readings from a Bitch. She recently created a hashtag all about deck reviews and what our philosophy, background, and approach is to them. And this exact topic has been running through the back of my head for the last week. We've seen a lot of discourse about tarot and consumerism, about inequality, about how transparency or lack of transparency in deck reviews can kind of fuel those issues within our community. And I wanted to lay out my own philosophy and approach. And I really, really appreciate Cody for also being on this wavelength and for creating these 9 questions to really be able to dig in to our various approaches to this subject. So I will leave a link to her original video down below, and if you have done a video response, or if you feel called to share your own philosophy in the comments with me, I would absolutely love to hear your take, because I do think that transparency and honesty are absolutely vital, not just online, but really in all aspects of life. So I'm excited to be a part of this conversation today. The first question is, what is your tarot experience? I've been reading tarot for 9 years. I started when I was 18 and I'm about to turn 27. So tarot has really been foundational for the better part of a decade. For me, tarot is both a spiritual tool, but also it's a psychological tool. And I use all of the decks in my collection in both of those ways. Looking at the more practical side of things, I will turn to tarot for shadow work if I have difficulty moving through a particular issue and I want to make a decision from the most well-informed, most balanced and aligned perspective possible. On the other hand, I also use tarot as a tool for several different spiritual practices, ranging from meditation to ancestral work and spirit communication to spellcrafting. And so a lot of my favorite decks are ones that play both of those roles. They kind of occupy this liminal space in between the psychological and the spiritual. Question 2, why do you review decks? I review decks because I am very passionate about tarot. I'm very passionate about the ones that I absolutely love. And I've noticed that my taste in decks is a bit different from other people's. I am very fond of the kind of classic US Games and Los Scarabeo decks from the 2000s, early 2010s, really before tarot hit the mainstream. And I am very fascinated from an anthropological perspective about what kinds of decks are really popular, or what is kind of emerging from the collective unconsciousness during a particular period of time. I'm also interested in modern decks and seeing how different artists approach either the Rider-Waite-Smith or the Thoth and add their own personal insight and understanding to those systems. Really, I'm just kind of a magpie, and this is just a really great way for me to be able to not only share about those topics of fascination, but also to connect with people who have similar tastes and interests and to be as helpful as possible. You know, I really think that it's important to be honest about some of the things that we love and some of their shortcomings, and to help inform other people about those as well, so that way we can make the most well-rounded and informed decision about what tools we are bringing into our spiritual practice. So yeah, it's just kind of a mixture of that love, but also wanting to help perpetuate that love and again, to help other people be very informed on these things. Question 3, how did you get into reviewing decks? It was really just born out of that love, and primarily because a lot of the decks that I'm very attracted to are not as popular. I noticed that there were titles that I absolutely love, like the China Tarot, or the Fallen Angels Oracle, or the Golden Tarot by Liz Dean, that don't have a lot of other review videos on that subject. So I kind of started out in the early days of my YouTube channel 7 years ago, talking about decks that nobody else was talking about and kind of offering my thoughts and feelings about those to kind of fill that gap that I was seeing. And now I've returned to it again, really kind of as a mode of anthropological fascination. Like I did a review video recently about the Messages from Your Angels cards by Doreen Virtue, which is a new deck for me, but has been around since 2002 and really represents that particular period in time, that particular style of angel decks. And the deck for me is really fascinating, both because it reads well, but also because it's an artifact of that particular period of time. And then other ones, you know, these are decks that I have had for 9 years or for 8 years or for 7 years. The Golden Tarot is the very first deck that I ever had, and it took me all of this time to finally feel comfortable enough to talk about it and to review it, because it is so intensely personal, because I've walked with these images for such a long time. I really don't think that I can give a review video when I've only had the deck for a few days or for a few weeks. I really need to put it through its paces. I need to live alongside of it in order to see what kind of situations it's most useful for, in order to see what kinds of readings it's really well suited for, if it plays well with other decks, if it can read well on its own in the case of an oracle deck, and so on. So yeah, I'm really trying to approach it from that space now. I have done a few unboxing videos in the past when I was just starting out. Like I did an unboxing video of the Hardy Tarot because I was just so excited to get that deck. And I'm still proud of that video. This deck has definitely stood the test of time. It's been a constant presence and companion for me ever since I received it and I did that initial video on it. But I don't think that the video is particularly helpful for folks who are trying to get into the Hardy Tarot now, because deck artwork is so much more accessible than it was 7 years ago. You can easily find a lot of scans online. What I find to be very helpful when I'm watching other people's reviews is, again, like hearing about that lived experience, hearing about what kinds of readings or what kind of practices a deck is most suited for. And so I'm really, really trying to have that be the guiding light moving forward when I am creating reviews. All right. Question 4, do you receive decks for review? No, I do not. I have been very fortunate over the years to have some friends and some fellow folks on YouTube give me tarot decks, and those are well loved and well cherished, but I have never been contacted by a publisher or by an independent artist to review a deck. I'm also not interested in doing that, mainly because all of the decks that I reviewed and all of the decks that I plan to review in the future are just so personal to me that I'm not looking to add anything new to my collection. Question 5, actually before I move on to question 5, I do think it's important to name the price of decks in your review. And I have done that since I returned to YouTube last year, and I will continue to be very transparent about the price of the deck. Question 5, what kind of reader are you? So primarily Rider-Waite-Smith and Thoth, but I'm very intuitive. So I don't read with a lot of set spread positions unless I am doing particular kind of spiritual work, or if it's a deck that has a very specific system that it follows and it benefits from having those set spreads. Otherwise, it's just an intuitive conversation where I am pulling cards as I feel guided to, asking follow-up questions based off of what the imagery is really calling me to explore within my psyche, and so on and so forth. Question 6, what kinds of decks do you gravitate toward? I just really gravitate to decks that speak to me on a very deep level. I have a wide variety of artwork. I have decks that are definitely darker themed or a little bit creepy or a little bit unsettling. I have decks also that are very beautiful and expansive and have kind of this psychedelic artwork as well. So for me, it's just about that personal relationship with the artwork. I do enjoy decks that have a very consistent internal worldview. If there are motifs that are reoccurring in card images, if there are specific creatures like animals or I don't know, like fae or dragons that occur in one suit and one specific suit alone, strong color themes, all of those make it a lot easier for me to be able to lay out the cards and to understand what kind of elemental energy is present either in my own personal situation, if I'm looking at it psychologically, or what kind of energy is being channeled through for a spiritual working. So that's kind of the one through line amongst all of them. And then question 7, what do you like in a deck? Again, the art has to be resonant. It has to function as a tarot system. So the artist has to either expand upon or really play within the rules of the Rider-Waite-Smith or the Thoth. There are a lot of decks, primarily independent decks nowadays, although I have seen a few mass markets that have been guilty of this too, of really being a collection of really beautiful images, but they don't have the traditional tarot symbolism, or they're not really, I don't know, they're almost like one-dimensional to the point that it's difficult to be able to pull out different kinds of nuances from the artwork. So I'm really selective about the decks that I have and the decks that I choose to review, because for me, like, I really want it to function within the historic tradition of the tarot. I want it to have a dialogue and to have a conversation with other interpretations throughout the history of tarot, and not to function just as an art gallery. So I think that also answers question 7 and 8. What do you like in a deck? What do you dislike in a deck? And then question 9, what do you not care about in a deck? For me, that is cardstock. So some of you might know that I'm not the biggest fan of linen cardstock, just because it's very slippery and it gets everywhere. But for me, the absolute best cardstock of all time is the Low Scarabeo cardstock. Anything that is like a classic black or blue grade casino cardstock, perfect for shuffling. If a deck doesn't shuffle well, then it is not lawn for my tarot world. But that being said, you know, if the artwork really compels me, if the artist has a really kind of ingenious take on the tarot system, like with the Mythical Goddess, which has this very low quality kind of cardboard pulp stock, I'm willing to look past it because the images and what it has to offer are so compelling. So those are my answers to Cody's tag. Again, what it really boils down to for me is sharing my love of tarot, and again, just trying to be as well balanced as I possibly can. I have thought about, in addition to doing review videos, I've been thinking about doing unhauling videos, because I often find that those are the kinds of videos that are most helpful for me to watch if I'm interested in purchasing a deck, or if I'm just very curious about kind of a controversial deck in the community, so to say, because I think that folks are much more honest in their unboxing or in their unhauling videos than they are in an unboxing video. It's so wonderful and joyous to be able to unbox a deck throughout time and space with one of your favorite creators. And I don't want to denigrate that experience at all, because I have done it in the past. I have watched a few of those in the past. But what really matters is the lived experience of working with a deck, of getting to know it, of having a very balanced understanding of its strengths and weaknesses, both energetically as a reader and also physically in terms of tactile experience, to be able to provide that information to other people. And really, at the end of the day, the goal is to be able to share the love and to help empower other people to find the spiritual tools that resonate most with them. If I have an overly positive review of a deck, or if I have an overly negative review of a deck, I want you to feel like you have the facts that you need at the end of the day to be able to decide if this is something that is really resonant with you. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much again to Cody for helping to further this conversation by creating this tag. This was very fun to make, but also it feels very important to state. And I'm really looking forward to being able to further this dialogue and to hear your thoughts and opinions on this topic. So as always, I'm sending you all much love on your own path. Bye.